Hello YouTube, welcome back to the Basement Card Collector. Today's video is going to be a player spotlight, and it really is based on a documentary that we just watched here in the world headquarters of the Basement Card Collector. A documentary called Just One Word, Reggie. And you can see I have a book here, an old book that I saved from a library throwout in the discard pile. It's called Reggie Jackson, From Sports Star to Candy Bar. I just watched this documentary on the TV last night. It just got me really interested in Reggie Jackson, and I'm not a super fan of Reggie Jackson. I am a fan of baseball, and I do love his story, and I just love a documentary. I don't know if I've ever watched a bad one, and this video is going to be about the career of Reggie Jackson. And again, I started collecting in 1989, and when I first found out about Reggie Jackson, he looked like this to me. These are what two cards kind of got me started with him. 1988 Fleer. Okay, I'm like, okay, there's an old guy. Reggie Jackson is his name. He played for the A's. I knew that. And that's not so new. And I am kind of familiar with that 563 home runs. That's just a number that's ingrained in my head. I was a new collector. I thought, my goodness, that's a lot of home runs. And then as you go back, it's the A's, it's the Orioles for one season, Yankees, Angels, and then back to the A's. So in my short collecting memory, he kind of looks like this. I also thought this was cool to get a 1987 Topps. I thought, man, that'd be super cool to get that card one day. The 77 Topps Reggie Jackson. Well, I've recently picked that up, and I still think this is super cool that I have that. 1977 Topps Reggie Jackson. To me, that was almost like a Babe Ruth type card, a Mickey Mantle type card. I'm like, I'm never going to get a card from 1977. That's ancient. Well, we've picked that up. So, of my cards that are going to be my all-timer Reggie cards, we're going to set that over here for a second. Some of the basic stats that you know about Reggie Jackson. 563 home runs. 1,702 RBIs. 1,700 RBIs. Almost 2,600 hits. All very solid. He was a 1993 Hall of Famer. He was a 5-time World Series champ. And in the documentary, they covered kind of the way that you would see his career, A's first. And so I don't have a lot of A's cards. This is my only legit playing days card, this home run leader with him and Willie Stargell, 1973. Pretty cool card. 1974 Topps with the 1973 leaders. That's my oldest Reggie card. His rookie, I believe, is on the 69 Topps. I'm still working on that. I don't have it just yet. And I have a couple cards here that are of the old school A's uniform, or that old school Reggie in the first round. Love that mustache. And in the documentary, he was the first guy to show up to spring training with a mustache and a beard. And at that point, nobody had done that. So Reggie Jackson is kind of, well, he credited himself for starting the beards for the A's. And I think Raleigh Fingers, who was also on that documentary, said, hey, we're superstitious players. We're going to do what's working. Well, they won 3 World Series in a row. So Raleigh Fingers and that famous mustache, he's on that video talking and being interviewed. There's a 93 card. It's not an old card, but it has him as an old, I shouldn't say young, as a young player and as a veteran there, you could say, at the Upper Deck Then and Now card. And speaking of the video, the documentary, I do encourage you to watch it. It has several clips of some of the all-time legends actually talking. At the beginning of it, he's on the phone talking to Pete Rose. And Pete Rose is asking him about, hey, are you going up to the hall? And Reggie's like, I don't know if I can make it. The travel is kind of hard on the body. I don't know if I'm going to make it. So then they go on to talk about how Johnny Bench has called, a few other people that have called, and it's just those all-time guys. And in my mind, they're just stuck on these baseball cards. But they're real people. And here's Reggie Jackson talking about the travel from California to Cooperstown. It just kind of hit me. I'm like, oh yeah, they're just normal dudes. They just happen to be superstars and all-time greats. So in the video, we have video of Reggie on the phone talking to Pete Rose. Later on in the documentary, he's a young A. He's just been called up, and he's getting hitting tips from the batting coach. Do you know who the batting coach was in those early 1960s A's teams? Joe DiMaggio. So if you want to see Joe DiMaggio in an A's uniform, check this video out. He's actually the batting coach. I did not know that he's the batting coach for those for the late 60s, early 70s Kansas City A's teams. I did not know that. So there's video of Joe DiMaggio talking on this documentary. So that's really cool. And as Reggie is traveling kind of the country, it sounds like, for this documentary, which is a super cool idea, he goes to Atlanta, Georgia, to talk to his buddy, to talk about the home run chase when this guy, Mr. Hank Aaron, was chasing the Babe Ruth record. And so there is a video in the documentary of Reggie Jackson hanging out in Hank Aaron's kitchen, talking baseball, talking records, the color barrier, and how it was not easy for these guys to play baseball. And again, you look at them on cards, I just feel like they're kind of captured in this baseball card. They play baseball. What's so hard about that? Well, other than it's baseball and it's a very hard game, they just had several things to deal with that just really isn't right. And so Reggie was talking to Hank in Hank Aaron's kitchen and talking about baseball, and it's just a really cool part of the documentary. Later on, he is playing in an all-star game. I think it was the 25th year anniversary of Jackie Robinson breaking the color barrier. And there he is. There's Reggie. And before the game, there's also live video footage of none other than Jackie Robinson speaking before the All-Star game. It's, again, you just see them, or I see them as photos on cards, but they were real people. And they really had, just more than a picture. And so me as a collector, it's like, hey, I love that card. Man, he was great in that year. He had a lot of home runs. But man, they were humans and playing a game, but they had different rules to play by. And it just really makes you think they're great players. And man, they had to do a lot more than just play baseball. And so there's video, again, of Hank Aaron talking on this documentary. And there's a video of Jackie Robinson speaking. And he's at the end of his life. He said he was almost blind when he gave that speech. But it just says it was a very eye-opening experience to hear Jackie talking on this video as well. Hey, and as they go through, he kind of goes through. They go through his career from those early days on the A's team, and the owner of the A's, Charlie Finley. I heard his name before. I knew he was an owner. I knew he was back from the 50s and 60s. I didn't quite understand. Him and Reggie did not get along. They butted heads. And at that time, it was like, hey, you signed with my team. You are my player basically for your whole career. Well, Curt Flood came into the picture, and they got the free agency period started. Well, Reggie's like, hey, I think I deserve one of those pay raises too. So one of the notes that I wrote down I thought was kind of interesting was, one year, he led the league in home runs. I'm guessing maybe this year. I don't know. We'll just use this for a picture reference. One year, he led the league in home runs. His RBIs and average dropped that in their meetings. Reggie led the league in home runs, but Charlie Finley said, yeah, but your batting average really fell, and you struck out a lot more. The point made was, Reggie Jackson actually led the league in home runs and took a $2,500 pay cut. Can you imagine that today? strikeouts are a problem, batting average, having a low batting average is a problem, and you hit a lot of home runs, and we're going to pay you less. If you've watched any baseball in the last couple decades, that is exactly the formula that these owners are shooting for. High home runs, low average, tons of strikeouts, low contact. It just made me laugh while I was watching. And I have a couple Reggie cards I'd like to show. This is kind of like the iconic card for me before that 77. 1978 Topps. Just love that red, white, and blue all-star banner up there. And 78 is kind of when he became known as Mr. October. He had the World Series against the Dodgers where he hit 3 home runs on 3 straight pitches. I think off of 3 straight different pitchers as well. And I thought this was kind of a cool thing to get. I have Charlie Huff on the 78. I don't have a Reggie Jackson autograph, as cool as that would be. But Charlie Huff is the 3rd pitcher that served up that 3rd home run in that World Series game. And I looked at it, I did rewind it. I couldn't tell if it was a knuckleball. I don't know if he was in the knuckleball part of his career yet. But it was gone. That much I do know. It was a bomb. And that pretty much cemented Mr. Reggie Jackson as Mr. October. He would go on to win that World Series. He actually was a 5-time World Series champ, which I don't think I knew that either. Here's another really cool photo. That might even be the Charlie Huff bomb. Just hit it, and then it got a little watch out of it. This is that Golden Moments card, of course. Actually pulled this in a pack. It's one of those flashback, or I call them flashbacks. The 1986 version. Just a really cool picture. I love those uniforms. Who doesn't love those uniforms? Another cool part about the documentaries that I just love watching, I love seeing the athletes from the video just in their normal day lives. And again, you kind of see them on cards, you see them on TV, you assume there's some type of robot that just hits home runs and goes home and does it again tomorrow. Reggie Jackson has a really cool house with a bunch of expensive vintage cars. Well, in his garage, he has, I didn't count them, let's say 10, 15 huge pictures of himself. Some of them look even to be autographed, but some of them were this Upper Deck Heroes series. Like, it's a poster size version of this very card hanging in his garage, just kind of showcasing the cool card. So when I send out my TTMs, I ask them, hey, do you collect cards of yourselves? Is that something, players do? Well, in the documentaries, you get to actually watch that, and you see some of these pictures of themselves in their office from their, highlights from their career and things. It just was really cool to actually see. He had 4 or 5 of the cards from that set, if you're familiar with those. So this is the Reggie card, of course. Which also, I found a cool stat. That Upper Deck series was the first insert set to include autograph cards. And so now, of course, they have relics, pieces of the jersey, pieces of the bat, pieces of the hat and base, and anything you can think of, autographed, numbered. And that little set way back when in the early 90s was the first set to kick that off, which I thought was a very cool stat as well. So to conclude my Reggie spotlight, I just have a little deck of cards here I'd like to just flash through really quickly. And they're really in no order other than those were my A's cards, all that I had. Just got a couple cool cards from the early 80s. It's him and Dave Winfield, Yankee powerhouse. 82 Topps, those glasses, that shell of a helmet. 1981 Donruss. These are the 2 from the 81 Fleer set. Mr. Baseball. And those Yankee teams in the documentary, it was him versus Billy Martin. There's a double of the 82. Billy Martin and him just did not get along for whatever reason, and it's mentioned several times throughout the documentary. Billy Martin, through Reggie's eyes, was made to be like, hey, I'm the boss. I'm going to tell you what to do. You're the star, but I'm still the manager. Okay? He was then shipped over to the Angels. And you can see here is an 83 super veteran, him flashing back to the 67 and then to current 83. Just 2 old cards there with the Angels. You can see 83 Fleer, 84 Tops. Kind of a cool card, active leader card there with the RBIs. Reggie Jackson, Craig Nettles, and Ted Simmons. Pretty cool photo here. He went to the Angels, and he even mentions in the movie that he wasn't the player that he was when he moved on to the Angels. Here's just 2 more cards, and the sleeves are pretty banged up, but that's what he kind of looked to me as when I first started collecting. I thought, oh, okay, it's Reggie Jackson. And we just picked this up actually not too long in a little surprise mystery box. And these are the last 2 cards we're going to leave it with here. This starting lineup got a cool picture of that beard, the shades, the A's helmet. His number is actually retired by both squads, the number 9 with the A's and number 44 with the Yankees. And he also has a monument out in Monument Park. So he's about as decorated athlete as you can find. And I just really enjoyed that documentary. So if you haven't watched it, I encourage you to do so. Just a lot of information. And again, he's a very interesting player, one of those major players in the game of baseball, which we all love. And so that is going to conclude my Reggie Jackson player spotlight. And really, it's because of that documentary. Please watch it. It's an interesting watch at the very least. Even if you're not a Yankees fan, it's just fun. It's fun to see how the athletes live afterwards. And they're more than stats. They're more than baseball cards. They're human, and it's really cool to hear their stories. So that's my Reggie recap. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.